The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963, written by Christopher Paul Curtis. Welcome back, warrior friends. We are ready for chapter 4, which is titled Froze Up Southern Folks. Because she had been born in Alabama, Mama didn't really know anything about the cold. Even though she had lived in Flint for 15 years, she still thought that the cold weather could kill you in a flash. That's why me and Joey were the warmest kids at Clark Elementary School. Mama wouldn't let us go out on a cold winter day unless we were wearing a couple of t-shirts, a couple of sweaters, a couple of jackets, and a couple of coats, plus a gigantic snow pants that hung on your shoulders by suspenders, plus big socks and big black shiny rubber boots that closed with 5 metal buckles. We wore so many clothes that when we pulled our final coat on, we could barely bend our arms. We wore so many clothes that when Byron wasn't around, the other kids said stuff like, "Here come them weird Watsons doing their mummy imitations." But the worst part of this was having to take all the junk off when you got to school. It was my job to make sure that Joey got out of all of her coats and things okay. So after I took all of my junk off, I had to go down to kindergarten and start working on hers. Joey usually looked like a little zombie while I peeled the coats and jackets off of her. She got so hot inside all this stuff that when I finally got down to the last layer, she'd be soaking wet and kind of drowsy looking. I took her hood off and unwrapped the last scarf that was around her head. When the last scarf came off, there was always this really nice smell. Like Joey was a little oven, and inside all those clothes she had baked up her own special perfume. With all the smell of shampoo and soap and the pomade that Mama had put in her hair, it was the only part I didn't mind. I love sticking my nose right on top of Joey's head and smelling all the nice things that have been baked together. Mama always kept a little towel in Joey's last jacket pocket so that I could make sure that her face and her hair were dry. "Kenny," she said one time while I wiped the sweat from her forehead and hair, "can't you do something to stop Mama from making us get so hot?" "I tried, Joey. Mama thinks she's protecting us from the cold." I started trying to get Joey's shoes out of her boots. Whoever invented these boots should be shot, because once the boots get a hold of your shoes, they wouldn't let them go for anything. I pulled everything off Joey's foot and I gave her the boot while I reached inside to tug on the shoe. We pulled and pulled, but it seemed like the harder we pulled, the harder the boot sucked the shoe back in. "Maybe Byron will help and make Mama stop if we let him know how hot we get." Joey was too young to understand that Byron didn't care about anybody but himself. He was kind of nice to her, though, and he didn't treat her like he treated me or the other kids. We tugged and tugged, and the shoe finally came out an inch at a time. Finally, it made the funny sound like water going down the drain and slid out of the boot. Phew! I tied Joey's shoes back on her feet, and I used her towel to wipe off my forehead. I couldn't wait until I was old enough to not have to listen to Mama, not have to listen to what Mama told me. The next morning, Mama was burying Joey in all her clothes again, and Joey was doing her usual whining and complaining. "Mommy, can't I wear just one jacket? I get too hot. And besides, when I wear all this junk, I'm the laughingstock of the morning kindergarten." Mommy's hand came up to cover her mouth, but she got real serious when she said, "Joey, I don't want you to be the laughingstock, but I don't want you catching a cold. You got to keep bundled up here. It's colder than you think. This cold is very dangerous, and people die in it all the time." Joey pouted and said, "Well, if they die in it all the time, How come we don't ever see any frozen people when we go to school? Mama gave Joey a funny look and she pulled her hood over her head. Sweetheart, just do what Mommy says. It won't be too warm. It's better to be too warm than too cold. Joey whined a little more when Mama put her boots on her. Me and Byron went outside and we waited on the porch. He was trying to look cool, but I said to him anyway, Man, I hate taking all that stuff off of Joey when we get to school. She whines and cries all the time. I stood next to him and I looked at him sideways. Seems to me that you got a real bad memory. Who you think took all that stuff off of your little behind all those years? What goes around comes around. I was surprised he said anything, since Byron thought it was cool not to answer stuff when people younger than you said it. But he wasn't being completely nice. When I was talking, he kept moving around me, so if I wanted to look at him sideways, I'd have to move too. It must have looked like we were doing some kind of square dance, with me moving around like the one foot was nailed to the porch. Yeah, but I didn't cry and whine. Byron kept circling me, and put his hand between his ear. What? I know you didn't just say what I think you said. You was the cryingest little clown I ever seen. With Byron walking around me like that, we must have looked like we were in the Wild West, and I was the wagon train, and Byron was the Indian circling, waiting to attack. Byron changed directions and started going around the other way, and I acted like my other foot was nailed to the porch, and I started following him sideways that way. I knew there wasn't much point in saying a whole bunch more to him, so I said mostly to myself, Man, I hate listening to Joey whining when I take all that junk off her at school. Well, listen here, he said. I'm going to help you out. I know it sounds kind of stupid to think that someone who was teasing me by going around in circles and going is going to help you out, but I said anyway. How? He kept going around and around me. I bet we look like the solar system, with me being the sun and Byron being the orbiting Earth. I'll talk to Joey. Kind of put her mind at ease. This didn't sound too good, but I got sick of By teasing me, so I let the Earth orbit by itself. Joey finally came out, and the three of us walked towards the bus stop. Byron started right in. Baby sis, I know you don't like wearing all them clothes, right? Right, Byron. They get too hot. Yeah, I'm going to help. Oops, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm hip. But, there's a good reason why you got to wear all that stuff. Why? Only me and Kenny wear this much junk. Yeah, but what you don't know is that Mama's only doing what's right. There's something you don't know about the two of you yet. But I know you're some real mature kids, so I'm going to tell you anyway. Okay, tell us. I wanted to know too. Even though I was in 4th grade, I fell for a lot of stuff that Byron came up with. He made everything seem so interesting and important. All right. But when Mama finally do tell you guys this stuff, you got to act like you're surprised. Deal? Both me and Joey said, deal. Byron looked around to make sure that nobody was listening. And then he said, Have you ever noticed how early in the morning sometimes you wake up and you hear garbage trucks? Yeah. And have you ever noticed how when you get up and you go to school, you almost never see them trucks? Yeah. And have you ever noticed how when you do see one of them trucks, it's got a real big door on the back of it that opens and shuts so you can't see what's inside? Yeah. And have you ever noticed how when that door is too big for even the biggest garbage can in the world? Yeah. And Joey, did you notice how Mama got kind of nervous and she didn't answer your question about seeing people being froze up on the street? Yeah. Byron looked around and made us get real close to him. Okay, so now this is the part where you're going to have to look surprised at Mama when she tells you about it. But before I tell you, you're going to have to practice looking surprised so I don't get in trouble for letting you know, okay? Yeah. All right, Kenny, you first. I made my eyes get real big and I threw my mouth open. Not bad, but try it with some sound. I made my eyes get real big. I threw my mouth open and I said, "What the?" Joey did exactly what I did. That's good, but I think we need some action. Do all that stuff and then throw your arms up in the air like you just heard some really shocking stuff. What the? We did. Cool. Now, do it together 3 times. Go. Me and Joey did it 3 times. Then Byron said, "Now listen real careful." He looked around to make sure that the coast was clear. There's a good reason why Mama makes you wear all them clothes. And it's got to do with them big doors on the back of them garbage trucks. Dig? Me and Joey nodded our heads the best we could with all of our clothes on. You see, some of them trucks ain't real garbage trucks at all. Joey, you was right. Every cold morning like this, the streets is full of dead, froze people. Some of the time they freeze up so quick, they don't even fall down. They just stand there frozen solid. Joey was believing every word, but I wasn't too sure. But you notice that not everybody gets froze like that. It's just them folks with some from down south that's got that thin, down-home blood who freeze up so quick. And you know Mama, she ain't from Flint. She grew up in Alabama, and that means that half y'all's blood is real thin. So Mama's worried that one morning it's going to be cold enough to freeze y'all. That's where them fake garbage trucks come in. Now every morning they go around picking up frozen folks off the street, and they need them big doors because someone who's got froze up don't bend in the middle, and they don't fit in no regular ambulance. Joey looked like she was hypnotized. Her mouth was open and her eyes were bugging. But both y'all gotta swear to never, ever try and look into the back of one of them trucks. I did it once, and I'm telling you, there ain't nothing more horrible than seeing hundreds of dead, froze-up Southern folks crammed inside a garbage truck. It's a sight I'm going to have to take with me to my grave. So, Joey, don't be crying and whining when you got to put all them clothes on. It would break my heart to see my own family froze solid so's they got to be thrown in the back of one of them fake garbage trucks. Joey started crying. Byron told me, "Give my regards to Clark Poindexter," and he left me there to wipe Joey's tears. I gotta admit it, though. Joey don't do no more whining when she had to put on all her winter clothes. Stay tuned. We'll read the second half of the chapter.